I want to start talking about Eldar Umeida Misnabim B'Machane. Then Yanika, which Yanika is always comes Mimei HaKatnus, but I'm going to get to it. But first I want to say, unbelievable story, which happened with Rabbi Elazar Migar Meiser, who was a Rishon Bal HaRekeach, and he was also known as a major Baal Meifis. He was the Rebbe of the Ramban in Kabbalah. So I just want to say over the story, he lived in Worms. Garmaiza, I think, was Worms. Anyways, so if it wasn't there, wherever it was. Anyways, the story goes like this. There was a king who lived in that area, and the king made a gzeira on the Yidden over there, a terrible gzeira, that they had to leave the country, and if they would stay, they'd have to pay thousands and thousands of dollars to the king. It was terrible gzeiras that he made on the king. So the Yidden came to Rabbi Elazar Migar Meiser, the Bal HaRekeach, and they told him, you have to do something, you have to help us, you have to get the king to be mevatel the gzeira. So he said, fine, don't worry about it, I will take care of it. That day, the king decided he's going to go for a walk in his garden, and he sat down on a bench to enjoy all the beautiful trees and everything else. He didn't have a care in the world. The fact that he had a gzeira on the Yidden made him happy, not sad. And he sat down, they brought him a cup of coffee. The Maisa was too hot for him to drink. So he sat down to read some papers. While he was reading the papers, he fell asleep. And when he fell asleep, he had a dream. And in the dream, he went to another country. And he was walking in this country. It says here that the country was Turkey. And Maisa, it was a very strange land to him. He didn't know anybody. He's there in his king's clothing, dressed like a king, and nobody recognized him. And he didn't understand the language. And he was like a lost soul. He was used to being king, getting everything he needed. And Tamal, he's sitting there, he can't get anything. So he was starving, and he didn't have a place to sleep. So he went to sleep on the benches that were there. And he woke up, he was right to starving, so he asked somebody, he said, listen, I'm a king of a big country, and I don't even have anything to eat. So the guy started laughing at him, you're a king, you're coming to me for food? What kind of king are you? So he said, I'll tell you. The worker tells him, listen, take off your king clothing, get regular clothing, look like a regular person. Since you don't know anybody, nobody knows who you are, you're not going to get any taivas from anybody telling them that you're a king, because they're going to tell you that you're a Meshigana. So therefore, put on worker clothing, go to work in some place, on some thing that you know what to do, and then you'll be able to make a shtickle parnasa, and you'll be able to buy food and live a normal life. So he decided it was a very good idea. And Maisa, he didn't know anybody there. Now after a while, he was there for a couple of years already, this is all in his dream. And so the people told him, he said, you're here already a while, why don't you get married to have a family? So he found somebody to marry, he got married, and he had a family, but he was still miserable because he's really a king, and he wanted to go back to becoming king, and here he's a regular pashta worker. Anyways, he's walking in the street one day, and he sees that Rabbi Elazar Migar Meiser coming to him in the dream. And so he sees him, so he recognized him. He says he recognized him because there were other gzeiras that were done on the Yidden that he came to ask, to be mevatel the gzeira. So he recognized Rabbi Elazar Migar Meiser, but Rabbi Elazar Migar Meiser knew who he was, but he didn't acknowledge who he was. But he saw that Rabbi Elazar Migar Meiser, the Bal HaRekeach, was speaking to him in the language that he understood. So he was very happy, he finally found somebody who understood what he was saying. So then he told him, I'm the king of your place. So Rabbi Elazar told him, listen, if you want to get back and become back to being king, there's one tonight. I'm going to bring a paper, and you're going to write on the paper that you're mevatel the gzeira on the Yidden, and that you'll never make a bad gzeira on them, and they're going to have full rights of everybody else who's going to be living there. So he said, of course, I'll sign anything you want, just get me back, I'll become king again. So he signed the paper. A few minutes later, he woke up from his dream while he was still sitting on the bench, his coffee was still hot. And the Maisa, The Gzeira that he had declared on the Yidden was supposed to go into effect in the next day or two, and nobody knew what to do. So the Yidden came back to Rabbi Eliezer Garmaiza and they asked him, what should we do? He says, don't worry about it. It'll be taken care of. Came the day of the Gzeira, so the king says, no, when are we putting it into place? Because he didn't remember anything that he even had a dream. So Rabbi Eliezer Garmaiza shows him the paper. And then the whole dream came back to him, that he had this terrible dream and he was in a foreign land and everything else, and that he signed a paper and saying Mevatel the Gzeira. So his first Havamina was to deny the whole thing. I don't know what you're talking about. But then he realized that if Rabbi Eliezer and Garbaiza could do such a Neis Goloi, so he could also do tremendous hezek to him on a personal level. So he signed it right away. It was Mevatel the Gzeira, and it was La Yehudim Haisa Eira. The point of it is that a lot of times the Rabbanu Shloim, it seems like a nes al derech, it seems like something al derech nes, but it's really derech teva, because a cholam is a derech teva. We all have crazy dreams, right? They could be true, we don't know. But l'maisa, it's al derech teva. So I wanted to speak about nisim that happen al pi derech teva. And the biggest nes, and it has to do with this week's parsha. This week's parsha is Bahalaischa. And Pasuk says, Vayar Tanar, Vayagid LaMoshe, Vayayma Eldad Umeidad Misnabim B'machne. Meaning what? That two Nevi'im, Eldad and Meidad, they are being misnabe. What were they being misnabe? They were being misnabe, not such good things. One Nevuah was that Moshe Rabbeinu is going to die in the Midbar, and he's not going to be Zeicha to bring Klal Yisrael into Eretz Yisrael. And the other one is that Yeshua is going to take over. So, now I'm saying over from the Ari'Zal that the word Eldad and Meidad, Dad is mashma as a mokem yinika. So, Eldad is pshat Aleph Lamed, is Shem Kael, together with the Yanika, mokem Yanika, the Dad, and the Meidad is Mem Yod, which is representative of Nun Sharei Bina. So one of them is B'chinas Hadin, and one of them is B'chinas Harachamim. The Eldad is the B'chinas Harachamim, and the Meidad is the B'chinas Hadin. And there were two Nevuos. One was that Moshe Rabbeinu was not going to bring Klal Yisrael into Eretz Yisrael, and the other one was that Yeshua will take over. That was B'chinas HaChesed. So you see that why does it dafka have to do with Yanika? Because Yanika is a special koyach that's mahapich dam to cholaf, right? And that's even though it's a nes al piteva, but lamaisa it's a major nes. If we try to do it, you took all the dam in the world and you put it in a petri dish and you went to the lab, it's never going to turn into dam. But in Adam, the Ran Shalom put in the bria such a nes. Why did he do it? Because when is a person yonik? A person is yonik b'shas when he's a nitzrach. And the ultimate time that a person needs Yanika is when they're a baby, right? They have nothing. It's right. It's only Pchinas Nefesh. It's only Pchinas Taiva, right? And that's called Zman HaKatnos. It's Pchinas Nefesh, right? It's Pchinas Din. So in order to be mative, to bring the person up to the next madrega, he needs a Yanika, which is basically like he's getting a hashpal milamaila. He's taking the dam and he's turning it into cholav, and you're turning pchinas nefesh and you're turning it into a higher madrega to go from katnus to able to get to the next madrega. And you see it also a little bit in the Eldad and Meidad, because they were going from Zman Katnus, which was in the Dar HaMidbar, and they were going to go to a lower madrega where Moshe Rabbeinu was not going to be the one who's going to take them into Eretz Yisrael, right? So, but they got, the hamtaka of it was that Yehoshua, who was considered the next in line, that he was going to be Zeiche to bring them into Eretz Yisrael. So that was one side Yamin and one side Smoil. It could also, you could ask a question, so why let there be one? Why does there have to be one min and one mismail? One keneged chesed, one keneged gvura. Have one dad, and in miyaitza, everything could be menik from one. Why do you have to be menik from two? So as you know that we always learn everything comes with a maskala, and a maskala has to have in it a chesed and a din. So therefore it has to come mishnei atzadim. Grad has brought down Depends who you ask. I saw both. Which side should the mother start nursing from? So one pshat is that you should start nursing from the left side, because even though it's getting the dinim, the baby is mitzad hagvura. So, and you want to be maile to tzara chesed. That was pshat A, which not as nicha. And pshat B is that you start from the tzara chesed, which is simple. You want the baby to start off with as much good things that he can get. Which also tells you why the big chumrah of not having a baby to be yonik from a guy, because the hashpos that come from the Yana Yanika, which we're calling Hamtakas Hadin, we don't want that chas v'sholem to go into the baby. I'm not talking about formula, I'm talking about a regular Yanika. Obviously, it's talking every mother that has the ability to do it, obviously does it. Some can't for whatever the reason is. Also see that in the Bria itself, when the Rebbeinu Shalom started off in the Bria, it's also, and one other thing I just wanted to say, that dam, ribua of shem eke, is gematria dam. So even though eke is al shem ha'asid, and also eke is keneged bina, which is the ima, so it fits right in, but it's keneged the dam, and the eke, why is it keneged a shem of la'asid? Because that dam is going to be mishapech to chalav. That's what we're going to call amtakas hadin. There's the famous thing that they say about coffee also, and this is more with derech melitza, that a coffee is called kaveh, right? And if you add the chalav, and chalav is gematria mem, so it's as if you went to the mikveh. So that's a famous word, famous line, but it's over also because they say also, there's more chassidish word, that since the coffee is black and bitter, so how do you mamtik the coffee before davening? You want to have amtakas hadin, so you add sugar to make it sweet, and you add milk to make it white, so that's like an amtakas hadin. But that's just a side thing. That's not in a Kabbalah topic. That's in a Chassidish topic. Or you could say it's Hainu Hach, but either way. I wanted to also mention one other thing. Why is a dad called a dad? Because we see that by the Shiva Melachim Shemesu, right? So the Ari'Zal uses the lashon that they were in a pchina of darmutya. It wasn't a mamash misa. And the way they came out of that darmitya was through a yanika. How do you see that? Because Melech Hadad ben Bedad. The word Bedad is Beis Daled. Why is it called a Daled? Because someone that's manic is pshat that they're dalavaniya. That's why a baby is a dalavaniya, like a malchus. It needs something, it needs help. That's why Rabbi Shalom put into the Bria this inyan of nursing, of a yanika, in order, because it's a dalavaniya, the baby can't do anything for himself. All he can do is be manic. That's the only kayach it has. So if you have two Daleds, which is equal to ches, and ches is already Melech Hashmini, which the Melech Hadad was changed over to Melech Hadar, and that happened only in Melech Hashmini. So the Dad, which is Gematria, the 8, right? So that's Merames, Melech Hadad going over to Melech Hadar, which is the Tikkun. So you have the baby, which this baby right now is only Pchinas Nefesh, so the baby is going to be Mishapech over to create the Tikkun, the ability in Shirish to create the Tikkun. So you see that this Eldad or Meidad, which is in this week's parasha, and is coming to show us that everything that Rabbeinu Shalom does, that he put into the Bria, is of course only to be mative us, not for himself, but is only for our own good. We go through life, so in a baby, in a physical life, and the baby could be manic. When we become adults, it's not shaykh. So where's the yanika that we get as an adult? So that's just like there's a Zachar and a Nekeva, and the Zachar is mashpia to the Nekeva. So too you have the same idea of a Rebbe and a Talmud. So the Rebbe is mashpia over to the Nekeva, and it's also manic over to those who are have less knowledge and less whatever it is. So the Rebbe could also has the Indian, he could be manic to them, just like in a ish, it's chesed and gvura. And beside Behema, it's in the Netzach V'Hoid, which I'm not going there right now, because by the Behema, it's Keneged the Raglayim, and it's Mokim Tinuf, and by Isha, it's Keneged the Leiv, which is the Moichen. And on that note, we should all be Zeiche to Mashiach Tzidkeinu. Hamtakas Hadin also.